Why does Hinduism have so many gods and goddesses?
Just as from one mud comes all the different mud pots, from one gold comes all the gold ornaments, and therefore that gold that we do not recognize when we see all the different names and forms, God is only one.
Can you tell us a little bit about this wonderful Shiva temple that we have that feels like we are entering a different world?
So, Pawai Ashram, and if you see the Jagdishwara Murti, there's a beauty in that smile that you will not see in any famous painting of the world. One has to just see it, and no photograph of it does justice.
There is a very famous, universally chanted mantra, Om Namah Shivaya. Swamiji, can you tell us a little bit about this mantra?
So, Namah Shivaya, simple meaning is Namaha, I surrender, I bow to Shiva. Whatever at the moment you may understand as Shiva, but you must understand Shiva based on the scriptures, the Supreme Lord, Shiva, I surrender to.
What is so special about Mahashivaratri? Hari Om and welcome to this very special podcast on the sacred occasion of Mahashivaratri. My name is Om Dhumatkar, and today we are joined by Swami Swaroopananda, who is the global head of the Chinmaya mission, a movement that is now 75 years old. Swamiji, welcome to the podcast.
Namaste.
Swamiji is a true spiritual luminary. In addition to heading an organization that has 350 centers all over the world, he is also a renowned speaker, a best-selling author, and an inspiration to tens of thousands of people, myself included. Swamiji, today's podcast is going to focus on the lore and the meaning of Bhagavan Shiva. It is meant for those who know Shiva visually, who have seen him, who see his symbols, who have heard his stories, but want to go a little bit deeper to understand what is the meaning behind the symbols, what is the true message behind the stories. So Swamiji, I thought we'll begin with a question that all Hindus face, which is, why does Hinduism have so many gods and goddesses?
It's because we are no longer Hindu-minded. No? Our Indian knowledge system shows us and points out to us and gives us the mindset to recognize unity in diversity, not in uniformity. No? This kind of mindset by which we can understand truly the infinite nature of the truth and the reality. Yeah? So as far as the depth of Indian philosophy, which is there in the Upanishads, Vedanta, that points out that there is only one ultimate reality, truth, or cause of the universe. And this entire universe has come from that one cause. Just as from one mud comes all the different mud pots, from one gold comes all the gold ornaments, and therefore that gold that we do not recognize when we see all the different names and forms, to make us understand that gold which is beyond all names and forms, beyond the comprehension of our limited mind and intellect, our great rishis make us recognize the divine, the mighty through the cosmos. Yeah? So really speaking, this whole universe is the form of the Lord, the Virat Roop of Bhagavan. Now, in that also, the mighty forces of creation, sustenance, and dissolution. These mighty forces through which the cause of the universe creates, sustains, and dissolves the entire universe. What would be that physical representation of these forces and the multiple forces? When I say force, I mean to say energy, different types of beings, everything. What could be the multiplicity of the great mighty forces through which we can take a peep to the beyond? Huh? And therefore, these different forms of the Lord, of the one Lord that we see, and we choose to do our upasana, or let's say casual words, meditate upon, worship, adore, admire. And main thing is to imbibe those powers, those abilities, those qualities that we worship in the form with its qualities, etc., which we say Sagun and Sakar. So we should have no confusion as Hindus that we have got many gods. The supreme, ultimate God is only one. Now don't say which one.
That was going to be my next question.
We have that. Huh? Which one? Which one? Is it Shiva? Is it Krishna? Is it Rama? Right? All these are names and forms, manifestations of the one infinite divine reality or truth. Yeah? So since we have been so conditioned to think about God as a figure sitting up in the sky with a long beard, ready to attack every human being for the punishment that, to give the punishment for the every wrong that person has done, we are not able to get out of that kind of mindset. That's why these confusions. But when we were brought up traditionally, culturally, by our grandparents, first thing we learned as Hindus is truth, reality, God is only one. But the forms are many. And the same Lord in you, in me, in everyone. But we can't see in everyone till those qualities that we worship, say in Shiva, what we worship in Bhagavan Vishnu, till we see those qualities in each one of us, the divinity does not manifest, nor do we recognize our divinity.
And it's so beautiful how Shivji manifests so many forms in and of himself. Sometimes we see Bhagavan meditating in the Himalayas, as we have with this beautiful image of Jagadishwara over here. Sometimes we see Bhagavan as a family man with his kids and with his wife. Sometimes we see Bhagavan as a warrior. Sometimes we see Bhagavan as a child, Batuk Bhairava. So, Swamiji, is it important to focus only on one manifestation of Bhagavan, or can we flow with these different forms?
See, depending on our mindset, our knowledge, our present limitations, or the wisdom that we have. As such, in the Upanishads, the whole cosmos, that's why when Arjuna asked Sri Krishna, show me your form, his form as a flute player, as his charioteer, as more Mukurdhari, that was right in front of him. His Ishta form, the one which he worshipped, admired, adored, right? Or had a relationship with as a friend. That form was in front. But which form did he say? Show me. And what form did Bhagwan show? Of course, not as it is picturesquely pointed out like a centipede, millipede, like so many arms coming out. In short, he saw the universe at a stretch where every arm is his, every hand is his, every mouth is his, every head is his, because it is one only who manifests in everybody. So therefore, that is the richness of our Sanatana Dharma, our Hindu culture, that we see God in everything. But till you see that, as Bhagavan Shri Krishna says in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where you see splendor, where you say awe, where your own intellect gets stupefied, like in wondered, right? There is where you can sense that divinity in your heart. And therefore, those beings, those cosmic forces, elements in which our mind intellect becomes silent in wonder. In that, we can worship God. No? And therefore, our Rishi says you can worship God in your mother. Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo Bhava. That worship God in your mother if you don't feel that any other form you have. What is the living evidence that there is a loving, kind, providing creator, sustainer, nourisher of the universe? Can't we see the glimpse of that love, that purity, that godliness in our mother, in our father, in our guru? And in fact, anyone that comes in your life to visit your life like a guest, no? We can see God in everything and everyone. So that is the great vision of ours. No? Whether it's our saints and sages, in Kabir Das ji says, Sadho, Hari ko har mein dekha. I see Lord in everybody. Till we get that vision, then according to tradition, according to upbringing, according to our mental setup, we will gravitate towards a particular identity. No? But that identity is not a limited identity. No? Like Lord Shiva, like Sri Ramchandra ji, whether it's Sri Krishna, Bhagavan Vishnu, right? In the Vedic period, where thunder and lightning were the mighty forces which brought us rain.
Yes.
And rain is that which provided, therefore Indra Devata. No? So all these are for us to recognize the divinity. And once we recognize the divinity, in fact, we can see it in everyone.
Yeah, wonderful, Swamiji. And it's so interesting because now I think we are on the third question, and I think of the three questions, two you have only preempted. So in this one, I was actually going to ask you about the Vedic deities like Indra, like Vayu, Yama, and so on. And there's a perspective that is coming up among certain academics, shall we say, that Shiva was inserted later into Hindu theology. But you mentioned the Upanishads, you also mentioned Vedanta. And this perspective clashes with the perspective put forth by these academics. So, where does Shivji fit into the broad narrative of the Vedas?
So there is, in our scriptures itself, whether it's the Vedas or whether it's the Purana, we have two aspects of the Lord. That's, in English language, we'll just say two aspects. One is the absolute, the all-pervading existence, consciousness, bliss, which we say Satchidananda, Parabrahma, Paramatma. No? And if you see every Puranic literature, no? Whether it is the Shiva Purana or whether it is Srimad Bhagavatam, first indicates Shiva or Bhagavan Vishnu or Krishna as Satchidananda Rupaya. That we should never forget. The one eternal, infinite reality that is existence, consciousness, infinite bliss. No? So that is the aspect which we have to realize as our own self or Atma. Then, in the cosmos as the creator of the universe, we see these mighty, mighty forces. So in the Vedic period, the visible forces were Indra, Vayu, Varun, Agni. These are pretty much the cosmic forces or the five elements mainly, no? With which the visible, manifest creation is. And therefore also, if we say, when you say the manifest Lord, it is through these five elements. So they are considered as the main deities. No? Agni, Vayu, Varuna, no? Indra, in the Vedic period, but again visible. But to say that there is no mention, when we say Rudram, Kaivalya Upanishad, there is mention of Lord Shiva both in the absolute form as Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma, as well as in the form as Nagendra Haraya, no? Wearing the snake, Nilakantha, one who is compassionate, takes the poison. So in Kaivalya Upanishad is considered. Now, see, I don't blame scholars. They have to go through whatever research, etc., then time periods, etc., that is there. But if you have to understand what I hear from learned people, that the Veda can be understood more clearly with the Purana literature, and the Puranas have got depth because of the Veda. Yeah? So, if we say one emphasizes the absolute nature, the other gives us the manifestation. And how does that divine manifest as this universe, which itself is endless? You know, till today also, if you see all the documentaries, the more our telescopes become better, the more we see the universe as though expanding, right? So to remain in awe of this universe, and that this ego of ours is so insignificant, right? And when that ego surrenders, yeah, and you experience yourself as one with the universe at first, you know, how liberating it is. So therefore, scholars do their research. I have nothing to say about that. But to say later on, etc., what we hear is these were all later on introduced in our literature, that the mantra portion was earlier, the Aranyakas and the Brahmanas were later in the Veda, and then of course the Puranic literature came much later. But if you read the literature itself, they say that even the Puranic literature is timeless and gets its seed from the Veda only. So personally, I would say no, there's no difference, and it is not a linear. But avatars, manifestations such as Sri Ram avatar, etc., they come in certain periods of time. But you'll be surprised that if you read Goswami Tulsidas ji, etc., they're talking about that cycle of creation has taken place so many times. Therefore, the knowledge is there from the beginning of creation. So, to say that these are all later editions, of course, as human beings, even now, we take certain saints and sages, then glorify them as gods. Earlier, we would say that avatars or manifestation. Now, each one has become a god. So, then you can say that they are later editions. And seeing that, you might say that, that Shiva and Vishnu were later editions. But maximum suktams in the Vedas is about Indra and other, because they were the visible forces. So scholars try to say that they may have their certain, thoughts about it, but from our Pramanic literature, that doesn't stand much. That's my understanding of it.
And Swamiji, one of the most interesting things about our Hindu approach to scholarship is not merely to understand the texts, but to truly experience the outcomes that are indicated by the texts. And so we have one great spiritual luminary who is believed to be an avatar of Shivji himself, who came as Adi Shankaracharya to bring light to the Vedas and the messages of the Vedas as contained or as encapsulated in Vedanta. Swamiji, can you tell us a little bit about Adi Shankaracharya?
Sri Adi Shankaracharya, today we have to be truly grateful to. Because if it was not for him, and as it happens, as mentioned even in the Bhagavad Gita, that over a period of time, when people live an extroverted life, where spiritual knowledge is not valued or sought for, and even in our lives, dharmic values, dharma begins to decline, then Bhagwan takes avatar. Bhagwan manifests. Again, don't think that there's a being out there that manifests. That power, that consciousness that's there each one of us, as the totality requires, even really speaking, today, as the total mind, as the total votes are, accordingly you will have your leaders also, right?
Correct.
So with that logic in mind, that Bhagwan's manifestations takes place at different periods of time. So when Bhagwan Krishna says that whenever there is decline of dharma and adharma is suppressing it, and this happens in different forms. Today you can see how it is happening. Yeah. So it was at that time where Vedic knowledge, understanding had got totally kind of, had declined. Certain ideologies of newly appearing, I wouldn't call it in India, we don't call it as religions, but different thought opinions, darshanas were rising. And there was also misinterpretations of the scriptures. Even language changes over a period of time. So to understand truly what is the import of the very basis of our dharma, and that is the knowledge of the Veda, particularly Vedanta. No? So to re-establish that very, very clearly, it is thanks to Shankaracharya, when there were so many confusions of different philosophies, ideologies, etc., that through proper debate, discussions, re-established the Vedic culture, the Vedic practices, and most important, that which the Vedas indicate as the truth.
And Swamiji, I hear that there's a very special connection that Chinmaya Mission has with Adi Shankaracharya in Kerala. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
First of all, we come in the parampara of Sri Adi Shankaracharya. So our lineage is from, all the great masters, including Sri Adi Shankaracharya. And in Kerala, Ernakulam, which is considered to be the birthplace of Sri Adi Shankaracharya, because both his parents lived in the district of Ernakulam in Kerala. Today we commonly call it Cochin. Yeah? So the father's place was in Kaladi, and mother's ancestral home is where we have our ashram today. Yeah? So our Chinmaya International Foundation is established in the ancestral home of Sri Adi Shankaracharya's maternal family.
And I believe that till date there is a room in which Adi Shankaracharya.
It is believed that these were the places where women delivered their children. Now we can't go into proving whether Shankaracharya was born here or there, but that is the particular room area. Of course, those buildings have also been renovated, but they used to build those houses on the very same room structure. So that room particularly is believed to where the women of the home would deliver their children. And in case, the delivery happened there, then that would be.
And Swamiji, there's something that's very unique about Chinmaya Mission ashrams, if I may say so, that wherever they are in the world, there is this pervasive sense of divinity. And whether one may experience it in Kerala or in the heart of the urban jungle, which is Mumbai. We are now in Powai in Mumbai, where Sandipani Sadhanalaya, the first ashram established by Swami Chinmayananda, is based. And we have the beautiful Jagadishwara temple where this deity was consecrated by Swamiji himself, along with the Shivalingam and other deities. So, Swamiji, two-part question. One is, can you tell us a little bit about this wonderful Shiva temple that we have that feels like we are entering a different world? And secondly, Swamiji, what is this power that regardless of wherever in the world we are, it feels like we are at peace here?
See, first and foremost is, no place is great till someone, great comes and resides there. And their legacy, their vibration, their love, their vision, their work becomes manifest there. And that's why the divinity remains in those places. You know? So Swami Chinmayananda is one of the greatest luminary saints of our land of Bharat. And as you know, he dedicated his entire life for us to recognize that divine in us and that divine in everybody. No? So, Powai Ashram, in the midst of Mumbai, and I've been coming here for the last 40 years, even as a youngster, and as a child also I used to hear about it, but being very obedient with my school teachers who would bring us to Powai but not allow us to come up to the temple. And even if my friends would go, so I always wanted to come to this Jagdish. I didn't know, I knew there was a Jagdishwara temple, which was the temple itself was shaped as a Shiva Linga. I used to hear about it, but never got, till I met Gurudev, you know, as a teenager, and then came back here, not knowing that this is where, you know, our Gurukula is there to study Vedanta. So continuously here, brahmacharis, people come to study Vedanta. We have our Sandipini course, where in the Gurukula style we study the entire, you know, Vedanta, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and finding that truth within and spreading it to everyone. That was the vision of Puja Gurudev. No? So his love, his vision is manifest in all our ashrams, and all our ashrams are meant to be places of meditation, study of the scriptures, self-study, you know, as well as for seva. And therefore it maintains that divinity. And as far as his presence here, you know, literally bringing the Shiva Tattva here, and our Jagdishwara temple, you know, one of the first temples that Puja Gurudev established. And if you see the Jagdishwara Murti, you know, there's a beauty in that smile that you will not see in any famous painting of the world. One has to just see it, and no photograph of it does justice. No? And you just come and stand in front of that Murti. Besides, of course, its divine presence there, the beauty of this Jagdishwara Murti, and really it's a manifestation of what Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda used to meditate as a child. So it's that manifestation. And many people have tried to, you know, capture the same form for our different centers. They're all beautiful, but nothing like our Jagdishwara at Jagdishwara temple in Powai, Mumbai.
I would highly recommend anyone who is visiting Mumbai to come to this temple. It's a little bit off the beaten path. It is not a touristy area, but it is an experience that one will not believe is in such an urban setting.
And now it's no longer off the path. It is right in the heart of...
Swamiji, I was amazed because with the grace of Bhagavan, I've also been coming here for about now 20 years. And on my approach just now, there were skyscrapers in the distance.
It's distance, they're like looming all around us. But as you know, when you just walk into these gates, the greenery, the sense of peace that you feel, the love, it's just wonderful.
And Swamiji, you mentioned that Pujya Gurudev used to meditate on, as a child, on the form of Shiva, which is captured in this beautiful image of Jagadishwara. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because it's a very fascinating story about how Gurudev used to meditate on the form of the Lord.
Part of Gurudev's upbringing was in Thrissur, where we have the famous Shiva temple. Yes. No? And as you know, in our family homes, we have pictures of all the deities. No? Pictures of them, or even murtis of them. So we have all the deities. And that's the beauty. As children, we automatically gravitate towards a particular form or a particular deity, as we said, according to your own. So it seems that when Gurudev used to be sitting there, and when these elaborate, prayer sessions, a little child, he says that he developed a kind of a game for himself. Today, we need electronics for these games. When we were growing up, and especially when he was growing up, where there was no televisions, no such kind of games, where reading books, you created your own beautiful images. So he used to, in a way, of course, Purva Janma Samskars can be there, whatever you may say, that he would sit there picturing that form of Lord Shiva in his mind, and all the symbols that are there on his body, until his mind would become calm, because sometimes as children you don't understand these elaborate rituals that sometimes go on. Nothing wrong with the rituals, and children love it also, but when they go on for too long, mind gets distracted. He didn't allow his mind to get distracted. He kept it focused on the imagery of Lord Shiva. And he says, little did he know that he was actually meditating.
Swamiji, can you tell us a little bit about these images, these symbols? What do they actually signify? We see Shiva with Ma Ganga in his hair, with the Naga, we see him with the crescent moon, we see his throat is blue, we see him with tiger skin, sometimes we see him resplendent and handsome, sometimes we see him scary. What do all of these visuals signify?
You want to go into
Yes,
the depth
Swamiji.
of it? See, all these images of Bhagwan is to create in our mind that formation by which we become fit to receive the knowledge of the infinite. Yeah? I can't use even modern terms like neurological patterns, etc., but to create that mental atmosphere where the intellect develops itself, Diyo Yona Prachodayat. Intellect develops itself, grows to be able to comprehend, or rather, grasp those vast knowledge ideologies for that. Now, this upasana, this technique is called as upasana, where you worship the Lord not just externally, but internally in your mind by concentrating your mind on the form and the qualities, and then finally the nature of the Lord. So, you meditate on the form, the qualities, so Rupa, Guna, and Swarupa. And most helpful for that is Nama or Mantra. So Nama, Rupa, Guna, Swarupa. To meditate on the Lord. Now, the simplest is we repeat the name of the Lord. To hold even the form of the Lord, that first and foremost, the form must be fascinating for your intellect. It should be beautiful for your mind. To take away your mind from all these external, finite distractions, even just sensual thoughts, etc. So when you bring it to that beautiful, and let us take the beautiful form of Lord Shiva in meditation. For a spiritual seeker who wants to bring his mind to a meditative voice, the first thing when you look at that form of Lord Shiva in meditation, what strikes you is that peace, that serenity, that steadiness, that stableness. And what you think, your mind becomes. So first and foremost, that's what happens. Now, each and every, as you know, a symbol or a picture speaks more than 1,000 words. You can describe knowledge and wisdom that is on Lord Shiva's head. But can you even conceive the mightiness, the greatness, the flow of his knowledge? But we have seen the Ganga. So when we say Ganga on his head, Ganga represents in our spiritual culture. Huh? Again, one doesn't have to know this necessarily at first. But when you see Ganga, how she nourishes the whole of the north of Bharat, in fact, the whole of Bharat, you can say. I'm saying even with the waters, her flow, which is sometimes fierce, sometimes so gentle. Like a mother, she embraces everybody. It has been also the banks of our spiritual, in fact, our entire culture. No? So, to say that Ganga is on his head, that he holds that knowledge, that culture on his head. And from there, she trickles on to bless the entire world. As Puja Gurudev would say, this Akash Ganga represents the knowledge of the infinite, which is beyond our comprehension. Huh? The great rishis like Bhagirath did so much austerities, perform such austerities to bring this knowledge. But this knowledge also, if you bring to a common man, it will blow off his mind. First of all, may not understand, but it will blow off the mind. Yeah? That I am infinite, that thought, Aham Brahmasmi. It's only a pure intellect, like Lord Shiva, that can grasp that knowledge in its fullest, and as the Guru manifested in the right dosage for the seekers to gain this vision, to get this knowledge. So this is from the depth. But in simple way, it is said, Pair garam, pet naram, sir thanda, aaye doctor to maro danda. So first Lord Shiva, who does the whole creation and dissolution of the entire universe, such a leader, such a lord, first of all has to have a cool head, because you know how people can be irritating. So he's not ready to blast everybody. So first of all, cool Ganga on his head. So sir thanda. Ganga also represents knowledge, wisdom. But Ganga also represents Shitalta, the calmness, the coolness, the refreshingness. And life is not just one aspect. In life, there is beautiful and ugliness. There is the divine and there is the evil. There is the joy, there is the sorrow. There is good and there is bad. Lord Shiva, as a perfect renunciate, sannyasi, as a perfect grahastha, family man, as a perfect social well-wisher, shows us that you must maintain your balance in the pairs of opposites. So on the head is the cool Ganga, in the throat there is the burning halahal vish, poison. Adorns on his head the crescent, delightful Balachandra. And at the same time on his neck, he has the ferocious snake. Life, what comes our way, we do not know. But we must learn to keep our balance in midst of the pairs of opposites. Such a person alone can be the meditator and can recognize the infinite nature of the self. So worshipping Lord Shiva, our mind comes to that condition where it becomes so balanced, life comes to that condition, it becomes so balanced, which is the meditative poise, in which this knowledge reveals to us our own Swarupa, our own nature, and we come to recognize Shivoham, Shivoham.
Swamiji, such a simple image, but the depth in each aspect takes our breath away. And Swamiji, you mentioned that of the many ways to connect with Bhagavan, you mentioned two specifically, which I wanted to maybe touch a little bit deeper on. One was Naam and the other one was Mantra. So there is a very famous, universally chanted mantra, Om Namah Shivaya. Swamiji, it has both Naam and it is a mantra as well. Swamiji, can you tell us a little bit about this mantra?
Namah Shivaya, Om of course is added to every mantra, being the seed mantra of the Veda, is 5 letters. Na, Ma, Shi, Va, Ya. Therefore it's called Panchakshari. Yeah? And the mantra is the sound manifestation. The form is the gross manifestation. Yeah. Today, what do we have in our computers?
Visualization.
That, you play a music,
Yes.
and it shows you all these,
Yes.
some visualization, certain patterns.
Yes.
And
Correct.
even if you keep sand and you put a vibration, it'll give you a certain pattern. No? So the science of our mantra, see, name of the Lord itself is a mantra itself. Whether it's Rama, whether it's Krishna, whether it's Shiva. But the Vedic rishis combined words in such a manner that not only it has a great depth of meaning or the attitude we need to have or the instruction that we need to have, but they were also vibrations. No? Now, with ragas, we can tell that how when you hear certain morning ragas, how it gives you that atmosphere in your mind. No? The evening ragas, what gives, the day ragas, what it does. No? So mantras are a science of vibration, first and foremost. So I had a chance of, contemplating on the Mahamrityunjay mantra and this Shiv Panchakshara Stotra by Sri Adi Shankaracharya, and I brought out those books, and it was wonderful, wonderful, research and study. So Namah Shivaya, simple meaning is Namaha, I surrender, I bow to Shiva. Whatever at the moment you may understand as Shiva, but you must understand Shiva based on the scriptures. So, anyway, simple is the Supreme Lord, Shiva, I surrender to. No? Surrender means surrender is everything that I am and mine. So, mainly that I and my ego, and really nothing belongs to me. Which means I surrender all my fears, I surrender all my anxieties, I surrender all my stress. And at his feet, my mind becomes calm because sab kuch tera, na kuch mera. I am also yours. You look after me. Tumhe raksha ka kahu ko darna. Right? So, all these, the word namaha, which also in old Sanskrit, besides being nama means to bow, to salute, to surrender, also means na mama, not mine. Yeah? So, to constantly surrender, that my worries are also not for me to worry. I am only yours, you will look after me. How liberating again that is, where everything is yours, everything you're looking after, you know what is best. No? So, in simple way, constantly reminding ourselves, Namah Shivaya. Then as we grow deeper and deeper, what we have to surrender is our fears. And when I was, contemplating on this, in fact, Namah Shivaya, when we take each of these letters, each letter, Shankaracharya in Panchakshara Stotram has said that each letter is Shiva. Means it indicates Shiva. Yeah. Of course, many of the names like Nagendra Haraya starts with Na, right? Yeah. Maheshwaraya starts with Ma. Yeah. So like that, each name of Lord Shiva, in fact, all letters are there in Lord's name. Yeah. So every letter for us is also divine. Every letter is a mantra. But in Namah Shivaya, each of these letters, which are said by Shankaracharya, I bow down to the letter, the sound Na, Who is Shiva? And it is said that each of these letters represent the various fears that we have. See, in this world, you will say even sorrow is not always there. Yeah. But bhava, bhaya, rog is constantly there, which causes us dis-ease. It is a fear. You give it different fancy names, anxiety, worry, stress, but these are all forms of fear. And where there is limitation, where there is other, there will be fear. So by surrendering to the infinite, all our fears go away. There's nothing to fear. And this fear is the cause of our dis-ease, including disease. Yeah? So it frees us from all this. And there, each of these letters show us what fear Lord Shiva liberates. One is from Naraka. Naraka. Means from, I will not translate it as hell. For us, Naraka means the results and consequences of your actions which produce, sorrow for us. And then we live a life of, say, mental hell. We make a hell of our environment. And whether it is this life or life after, it is we who create our hell or heaven, no? So wherever our mind is joyful, it is heaven. Wherever our mind is miserable. So it frees us from the fear of Naraka. Sha. Yeah. So this, Ma. Mrityu. Death. Death means change, uncertainty, everything. The multiple things that we can understand as death, not just the physical death. So the fear of death, which is constantly there, which is also for hunger, thirst, what will happen in the future, whatever, all those fears, those uncertainties, frees you from that. By creating that right, first the vibration, then of course the attitude, qualities, knowledge. Then comes Sha, Shaishav, right? Which means birth. Now, the great knowledge of the rishis are that death is not the sorrow.
Okay, we're back.
It's the birth. Right? Again, coming back also. And the moment you are born, from that day, your changes begin. Growth, growing pains, everything start happening, isn't it? So that's how it frees us from the fear of birth, change, etc. Then Vardakya. That means old age, disease. Save us from that. And here, Yama. Yama means Lord of Death, but again it will become Mrityu. But Yama means that which regulates us, by whom you get the results of your actions, which means one who frees us from karma bandhan, from liberation from the bondage to action, for which we have to take birth again and again, or go to hell, heaven, whatever people have their belief in. But the results of your actions is governed by Yama, means the laws of the universe. And you can't escape that. But as Shankaracharya says in Bhajagovindam, Bhagavad Gita Kinchidadita, one who studies and lives even just a wee bit of the Bhagavad Gita, Ganga Jalalava Kanika Pita, who has sipped this cultural wisdom of the Ganga, even just a wee bit, even one glimpse, it can be even this one program. Ganga Jalalava Kanika Pita. Sakridapiyena Murari Samarcha. See, Shankaracharya and all did not distinguish Shiva, Vishnu, right? So Murari here meaning the one who killed the demon Mura. No? So that Lord who kills the one with 5 heads or 10 heads, no? So Murari, one who killed, or Tripurari, no? That you've had that one surrendering moment, one dialogue, or listen to the dialogue of Bhagwan, whether it is Shiv Gita, Bhagwan Shri Krishna is Bhagavad Gita, Kriyate tasya yamena na charcha. The depth of meaning of that is that person does not have to argue, no, I didn't do this, oh no, I didn't do that, why am I suffering like this? मैंने क्या किया जो मुझे सफर करना है? पूरे टाइम तो रोते रहते हैं ना लोग, ना? What did I do? Why this to me? There will be no such discussions with these consequences of actions. For Lord Shiva teaches us what the Bhagavad Gita says, how to act in this world, but do not be bound by the results of actions.
Letters, Om Namah Shivaya, the whole cycle from birth to old age to death to consequences to coming back. Bhagwan frees us from all. And Swamiji, now in a few days we will be experiencing Mahashivaratri. And Mahashivaratri is, of course, the name itself translates as the great night of Shiva. What is so special about Mahashivaratri?
See, time and space. You know that certain space becomes sacred. Like we are talking about Pawai, or whether we are talking about Gurvayur, whether we are talking about Kailash, whether we are talking about Vrindavan, all these people, Kashi, all these become sacred because of the divinity manifests there and the divinity that continues to inspire us, right? The same way also certain time periods, even climatic conditions, etc., are very conducive for meditation. I don't want to get into these cosmic vibrations and all that. There is no, people will ask for proof. We're not talking about that, right? We know how the moon cycles can affect, our body cycles, mind also, right? So certain time periods are conducive for meditation, right? Or also at that, again, the cosmos, there's no accident, through the science of astrology, people see that, time also when things happen, etc. And we've got such wonderful sciences. Of course, it's been badly sometimes misused, but, we've got wonderful sciences. So there are certain time periods which are conducive for meditation, conducive for celebration, no? So, and at the same time, some great event, just like an event in a certain place has got its impact. No? Like why do we even go to Jallianwala Bagh?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah? Kurukshetra. No? So the place event has left a mark. So also, in a time also, when great things have happened, it has left a mark on time. This way, I think we all can understand. Yeah. Otherwise, people will tell you, oh, this vibration comes in, this cosmic rays come in. This is not something that may be there. Yeah. We're not talking about there. After all, the whole universe is one unity. Yeah. No? But this is what it is. And therefore, it is said that it is on this day. In fact, those time periods are all on Shivratri, the day Shiva manifested as the fire, pillar, that is there. So that is worshipped at a certain period of the night, right? It is also the day, when Lord Shiva and Parvati got married. No? So, these are all events. So as you say, the manifestation of Lord Shiva, manifestation, we will call as birthday, but there's no birthday of Lord Shiva. He's eternal. But as you would say, so it's the manifestation. It's the day Shiva and Parvati got married. So all these are the occasions for which Shivratri is, remembered. But the spiritual significance is very great. As Pujya Gurudev has explained. Normally, we are busy working, experiencing the world or enjoying the world or suffering the world in the daytime. At night, we are asleep in tamas. We need for meditation the quietude of sleep. But the wakefulness of constant awareness. So we remain awake in the quiet night, meditating on the Supreme, here represented in the name of Lord Shiva. So we meditate on that, and normally night which is of tamas, normally night which is for sleeping, normally nights when crimes as well as sensualities of different types take place, which is considered to be inauspicious, frightening, for all those reasons that it is called. This is called as Shiva. Shiva also means auspicious. It is Shiva Ratri. And our life, the moment we decide to wake up from the darkness of our ignorance, that moment, auspiciousness starts rising in our life. So even the thought to remain awake and not sleep, not live in the slumber of life, to just wake up, that thought itself is auspiciousness, is Shiva. To keep awake at night rather than sleeping or indulging in extrovertedness or even in wrongdoings, because in darkness only all the wrongdoings happens. Here at night, you are meditating, worshipping. For those who are still extrovert, worship. And the whole external worship is to constantly remind you. So internal meditation is also going on. So keep it auspicious. And that auspiciousness, when we keep our mind constantly on Lord Shiva, rather than going to sleep or living in ignorance, as Gurudev would say, becomes mum, becomes still. Let Shiva happen.
Perfect note to observe Mahashivaratri, which is, as you just said, become still, let Shiva happen. Swamiji, we are unfortunately for me reaching the end of our discussion, but I wanted to ask you one question. That we are celebrating the 75th year of the Chinmaya movement. And of course, Pujya Gurudev, at the start, his first ashram was here in Pavai, where he established this beautiful Jagadishwara temple. What would be your message to everyone who wants to observe this wonderful year? What is the...
Not only this wonderful year, but for years to come. We all have, whichever sampradaya anybody comes from, we all have reverence for one of our scriptures, which is complete essence of our Upanishads, Vedanta, etc., which is relatable to a common man in the marketplace of his life or the battlefield of his life, and for the highest spiritual student. And that is the Bhagavad Gita, right? And it is so sad that either people don't know anything about the Bhagavad Gita. They know that there's something great. We have Bhagavad Gita, even the great scholars, philosophers from time immemorial, even Aristotle, Plato, we go on boasting about it. Yet, we do not even venture to remember one verse of the Bhagavad Gita or know what is there in the Bhagavad Gita. And most people say, I know, Bhagavad Gita says do your duty. That is obvious. That is not. It doesn't tell you to do your duty. Duty is something that you have to do. But it gives us the complete secret of living our life meaningful, with purpose, with understanding of who we are, what are our roles, etc. No? So therefore, no? See, Bhagwan's already blowing the conch. Double conch, Bhagwan. No? So that's what Bhagwan started off the Bhagavad Gita with. No?
Yeah.
So this year, and Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda, as you know, every breath, every day, he spread this knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, which was necessary for happiness in our life and for the upliftment of the whole society, not only our nation, but the whole world. And therefore, as the 75th year, we would like to initiate that if every Bharatiya to start with memorizes 5 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. And we've chosen those verses which summarize everything that we need to do and everything that happens for us. And the complete essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Each verse is a gem, right? But if we learn these 5 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, one thing, we will not be unfamiliar with Bhagavad Gita. There will be an interest in knowing it. Even if we know the 5 verses, it will be helpful for us in our life. Again, it's Panchakshar. 5.
Correct.
So, if we chant those verses, we will not be frightened to venture into understanding them. Secondly, we've got such a diverse spiritual culture. But we all have reverence for the Bhagavad Gita. We don't have one single, even though we may say Gayatri Mantra, this, but somebody cannot chant, that cannot chant. If we can meet together and all of us have these 5 verses in common when we chant, in every prayer, in every place of worship, in every congregation, in every family, then when we are together, we have something that unifies us. So that is the vision that we have said, that from this year onwards, and this should continue for generations, that we memorize these 5 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Maybe you can list it and tell our listeners which 5 verses, and of course give the QR code where they can learn it. But I request everyone, for your own benefit, these 5 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, memorize it. It's not difficult. Don't say Sanskrit is very difficult. All our languages emerge from Sanskrit. They are very familiar words to us. Let us not be afraid of our own mother. She is the most nourishing, giving. Just learn these 5 verses and then see the wonders that happen in our life. They're like the 5 letters of Namah Shivaya.
There we have it, Swamiji. On this wonderful occasion of Mahashivaratri, we are blessed with a message not just about Shiva, but Shiva Tattva, which manifests in so many different ways, including these 5 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Swamiji, I have told you before we started recording that I've had the great joy of listening to so many of your talks. But as it would happen, I never had as much of an opportunity to sit down with you in person, or at least to listen to the talks in person. So this experience of recording with you has been as if 20 years of listening to you have been encapsulated in 1 hour. I used to be on the London Tube listening to cassettes of your Hanuman Chalisa recordings. So it has been the greatest blessing to spend this time with you, Swamiji. I know you're very busy, you're constantly traveling. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us about Shiva, about Mahashivaratri, about the wonderful Panchakshari Mantra, and ending with this life-elevating message on the Bhagavad Gita. On behalf of all of the viewers, we express our deepest gratitude.
It's been a delight for me to be on your program, and I wish all your viewers, good learnings, happy life, and divine life. And this interview could go on so smoothly is because also of the interviewer that inspired me. Otherwise, sometimes they cut you and you really don't get into any ideas fully and cannot explain in depth. So wonderful being on your program, and wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. With that, I wish everyone a very, very happy Mahashivaratri. Please keep coming back. Please subscribe to the channel and please connect with Swamiji to receive this inspiration on a daily basis. And I know because every day on Instagram there is an upload on Swamiji's channel. Hari Om. Thank you so much for joining us.